NFTs continue to be discussed heavily, and some of you may be wondering if you're just too late to the game or not. Well, today we're going to be talking about how you can start making money with NFTs with only a small investment and try to understand the game and the market a little bit more. You getting started on this journey. Let's talk about that. Welcome in everyone, my name is Andy and I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come and watch this video on the channel. Just before we get started, if you would like to join the channel, we've just passed 2,000 subscribers, which is just nuts to think about. So thank you to everyone who's continued to support me in this journey so far. It truly has been amazing, and we've been a little bit sick all week, but we're slowly getting back in there. We managed to pass 2k subs even in that downtime. So thank you so much to everyone. I'm really enjoying making this content for all of you and learning as we go along. I'm going to be covering two areas in this video because some of you are going to be more familiar with different understandings and different scenarios, and if you're just getting started, then you're probably going to know one and the other and not both, but that will be OpenSea and Veve. Now, both of these are probably the best ones to get started with. I'll always say that Veve is definitely the best place to go because you can lose a lot of money quickly, especially on OpenSea due to gas fees, which is something we can discuss a little bit more later in the video. But Veve allows you to get into NFTs and understand what digital collecting actually is from the biggest brands in the world, things you actually recognize rather than things you've never heard of in your life and have no idea why people are buying them for any amount of money. A few of the comments I get or replies on Twitter is talking about how it's just too hard to get things on good deals now. You can't make money on them, you know, it's too hard to get them at a decent price. You're not able to pick anything up on the secondary market, especially when it comes to Veve, because there's a lot more people on the platform now. You know, there's not 100,000, there's over 1 million active people on the platform. So I know it can be very challenging to think in that mindset and think, you know, it's just too late. I'm not going to be able to get into this game anymore and not going to be able to make profit on it. However, like anything, it really is all about the work ethic that you put in to do so. See, the reason that big money makes more money is because they're able to risk more and therefore make more when they do so. And when you begin, you are taking just as much of a risk as them, but you have less money to play with. Therefore, you can't actually make the significant profits that they can make to then put back in. But that doesn't mean that you cannot get to that space. And something I've actually managed to do, starting out with 300 gems, which is $300 on Veve. Not here to sit and flex about what I'm able to afford now and what I've got in my portfolio in regards to this. I just want to give a real life example of what I've actually done and why it's genuinely possible, because I wouldn't be in this position if I hadn't put in the work to do so and to continuously be ahead of the game through the research and knowledge and my own understanding with how everything has been going on. I used to watch some of these YouTubers in the past talk about their success and how they've actually come from success before, you know, their families have helped them get to where they're at, monetary aspects and all that sort of stuff. This was all on my own doing. I'm nothing special. I've done all my own research, I've done all my own work, so it is possible for you too. The reason I say this is because when you don't have the same money that these big players have, you need to be smarter than the regular investor, because the regular investor, something we talked about in this video up here, often panics when things happen. Sell when all the big whales are selling to make sure that they can buy back in when everyone panics, and then they also sell when it's at their all-time high to then buy back in when everyone panics again. You need to become a smart investor without actually having the same level of investments that they have. And this is why it's so critical that when you are getting started here, you please just do your research. Do the research, understand what you're doing, and understand why you're getting into it. When you don't do that, you're going to fail at this and you're going to lose money, and then you're going to become someone who just hates the way the world's going, and then you'll be left behind by the time everyone else starts to come into the place. Don't lose just because you've not done the research for it. Try to understand why things happen, why markets move, because there are patterns to it. It doesn't always make sense, but a lot of the time there are patterns that it follows, and if you can take advantage of those, you're going to be winning. So when I discuss Veve, I'm going to be making further videos on how you can actually do this and how you can start with a little amount of money and start to work your way up. But there's two aspects that I really want you to pay attention to here. And these are drops and news. As I've said before, Veve is the easiest place to get started into NFTs because you can buy a comic for $7. Some of the comics are actually upwards of $20,000 at the moment if you manage to get lucky in the secret rare. Now, I'm not saying that everyone's going to get lucky. I know that's not the case for most, but just playing the game allows you to actually earn some more money than you put in, especially if you manage to get lucky in one of the drops. Yes, you're not going to get every drop. I understand that, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try if there's a possibility of making a return on that. There's a lot of things that Veve need to do to improve on, and they're working on those for the future, but if you have the opportunity to do so now and you want that sort of less risky investment, Veve's your way to go. The drops is the first one, just because it's so easy to actually get started with. I've got a few videos on the channel on how to actually win the drops more, know all the techniques that all the OGs know, and then it gives you the best chance to actually get it and to understand it. This is going to be a great way for you to just get excited a little bit about the collectibles that are coming into play, understand what the drop system is like and how to take your best advantage of it. The second one is going to be a little bit more tricky, but this is news, and this is where I've actually made a lot of my money. When you stay up to date with a project because you're doing your own research, you understand when things are a little bit lower than they should be or a little bit higher than they should be, and this is when you can choose to buy or sell. And we're going to take the example of when Disney was actually finishing for the Disney Golden Moments week on Veve just a couple weeks ago. The way the market has went in the past, especially when Marvel was announced for Spider-Man, the market dropped when Spider-Man got announced on the Medium article. When Spider-Man finally dropped and was finished, everyone then FOMO'd back into all the things that they had sold previously to get the money for Spider-Man, meaning all the prices that had dropped significantly before Spider-Man had been released now skyrocketed after Spider-Man had finished because they wanted those collectibles back and maybe weren't able to get lucky with the secret rare or ultra rare that they were aiming for. This means that if you're able to take advantage when everyone is selling, you would have made significant profits if you'd have then sold after Spider-Man had happened. And this is the exact same pattern that Disney Golden Moments followed. All of the Disney Golden Moments sat at a very average price before Walt Disney, final Disney Golden Moments, was released. After Walt Disney had happened and it was finished and Disney Golden Moments was over, everything shot up in price. And I mean in 3 to 4x's easily in the matter of a day. And that means you were able to make significant profit if you were only able to pay attention and not be like a regular investor. And again, I'm not going to say that this is easy to do because you have to sort of challenge your emotional side to become more logical and understand why. The news is what got everyone to sell out so that they could get the opportunity to potentially buy Walt and Mickey for the partners drop. After that happened, the majority of users had no chance of getting it. There's only 4,300 of them, and there was over 100,000 people going for it. Your odds of getting that are very low, meaning after the drop happens, the majority haven't got it, and therefore want to buy back into some of the other things that they've been looking for because they've been on deals. If you're able to be that person who understands this is the case, and use some of your investment to buy into those things when they're down, after it finalized, you would be in the money. This is how you slowly build up your portfolio, and actually the way that I was able to do this, to be able to afford every single Disney Golden Moments without actually putting in much more than I had from the beginning. So I put in a little bit more of my investment after I've made some money back from OpenSea. My initial investment of $300 came from my bank account. It's the only time that it ever came from someone external. Everything else that I'd put in was from profits from other NFT projects. Again, this isn't to say that I've then increased it and I've put in $10,000, $20,000. I don't have that amount of money. I started with 300 gems and I worked my way up for a long time and put in the work to try and stay ahead of the market and understand why things happen, which has allowed me to get to where I am. Now, on the flip side, some of you may have been invested into OpenSea and have seen what everyone's been talking about. There's a lot of people on that platform. It's probably the one you know the most. And if you're wanting to get in there, you have to understand there's quite a few varying factors way above Veve's pay grade when it comes to that sort of stuff, because Veve is very, very easy to get into and very easy to know what it's about. But when it comes to OpenSea, there's a lot more complicated things that many people don't understand, like gas, like transaction fees and more. So I'm not going to go into too much depth on all of those, as I probably should make a video on each individual part. But when it comes to OpenSea, the best way in order to make some money is to get onto whitelists. And I'm not going to say this is easy, and I'm not going to say this is the least time consuming thing in the world, because when you don't have a lot of money to invest in the start, you have to put in a lot more work in order to get the chances that these bigger people get handed to them. Because they have more money, they're free to do sort of whatever they want, often get offered these whitelist spots for free. I've had a ton of emails recently asking me to promote projects and to get on whitelist spots for free by promoting a project or talking about a project, which I've not took because I truly want to believe in a company if I'm actually going to ever do something like that. But the fact of the matter is, this happens with people who are way bigger than me and how they can get the opportunities that not many can. Therefore, what I do if I'm going for OpenSea projects is I have to go into the Discord. There's maybe sometimes whitelist competitions, helping people and all that sort of stuff. And one of the best examples that I had was the sevens drop, where I was able to get onto the whitelist and make significant profits from this, purely for the work that I was putting in each day in order to get into that whitelist and get recognized. This is solely targeted towards those who are just starting out. You're paying premiums for something that has just been released, or you have no idea where it's going because it's not had the time to develop its solid foundation of a company. It's quite challenging to do, because when you're new, you're going to make mistakes. And what we like to call tuition fees in this space, those mistakes are going to cost you a lot of money. And I know a few people who have been out of the game completely because they lost money on things that they'd speculated from, they didn't do their research with, and therefore thought NFTs were a complete scam. This is why I suggest that your whitelist spots, and probably the foundational ones that have been built over a couple months, are your best bet. If they're able to hold a solid ground, you know, you've seen the team, you've seen what they're like, and you're wanting to move forward with that, then you can definitely make some money on that front, especially if you're willing to hold for the long run. But if you're someone who's wanting to make quick flips, this is when knowing the right people, talking to the right people, and understanding what projects work and why are going to be the way for you to make your money. This is also why I suggest for most people getting started to watch the market first before making any decisions. Sort of like a paper stock account where you can test and trial things to see, if I were to buy it here, what would happen to it, why do these things happen, and why does the market move in that way. Also why I'm always suggesting Veve to people, because it's the least risk that you need to put in for quite a high ROI if you're willing to take the time to do so. Speculative bets and listening to other people purely based on what they're enjoying is never really the right way to go, because these people often have a lot more money than a regular investor and are fine to risk this amount. When we are putting in, and when we are just starting our money, and when we're just starting our journey with this, we don't have that same money. And when gas can cost upwards of $250 just for one thing that's costing you already thousands of dollars, it's really, really risky to go on the bet of someone else who is much wealthier than you are. It's important to understand what you're after, what you're looking for, what projects you're going for, and which ones you believe will survive and why. This is why watching YouTube videos like this will help you just gain a better grasp and understanding of the NFT space as a whole before you happen to jump in. And why I do continuously suggest Veve, because you can buy a comic for $7, understand what an NFT is, the secondary markets with it, the fees that you're going to get with it, and more, without having to worry about failed transactions, gas wars, whitelist spots, and more. Of course, Veve has its problems, some issues with bots at the moment. The system for drops isn't great, and a lot of new people are on the platform, meaning your percentage chance of actually getting these are a lot lower. But I would honestly say that OpenSea is probably a lot worse, with people who have significantly more money and can mint significantly more items from each drop that happens. One thing I also want to note is that if you're someone who's just beginning and you are just getting started in this journey, some people will often focus towards more rarer items in these projects. I wouldn't recommend that, especially for flipping. When it comes to the secondary market, you need someone to actually buy your product. You actually have to have someone purchase what you are selling. And when you have something that's more rare, it's going to take more time to sell unless it is very, very sought after. So when you have things that are at floor price compared to something that's way above the floor price, and someone's going to have to search for it and find your specific one, then choose to buy your specific one and have the ETH to buy your specific one, can be really hard to actually use that to your advantage when you're trying to flip your way up to more money and get yourself at more of a leverage when you're trying to buy these projects. I've covered a lot of information here, and I know that it won't be dead set because separate videos can be made for like 5 or 6 of the points that I've made in this instance, but I do want to show you that it is completely possible to make money when you start with nothing. I didn't start with much, and there's a lot of other people in this space who didn't either. You need to be smarter than the average investor and understand why smart money are doing what smart money people are doing. They often don't follow the trends because they know that's not how it's going to make their money. They buy when things are low and sell when things are high, and don't often panic when some news comes out that makes people FOMO. My best suggestion is to follow people on these sites, understand your own plan, and stick with it. Because when you're able to listen to videos like this, you're going to be able to see a wider perspective for what you're genuinely looking for. If you're someone who's in the art scene, the gaming scene, the metaverse scene, anything like that, you're going to find your own passion in what you actually enjoy with this. You can't cover each area as there's just too much to learn, but if you can get the basics down, understand patterns in the market, and see where things go wrong or right and why they go wrong or right, you're going to get that knowledge to see that when a new team comes along or a new project comes along, you know that that's probably worth your while getting into. What questions do you have when it comes to getting into NFTs? If you're someone who's new, let me know down in the comments. If you're someone who has just got started with it, again, give me any questions you've got, as I'd love to try and help you understand it more, a better way for yourself to be more convicted in your plan. I know the video on the screen right now will be something you'll love to watch. Have a fantastic day.